What's the dumbest reason you lost a friend? Overlent out money. They wanted to borrow some money, €100, and months later they got angry. When I asked when they think they were going to pay it back, suddenly I was the greedy one. I was friends with someone for almost a decade and she suddenly quit talking to me and ignoring me. After several weeks of this, I confronted her and asked her what was up. Why was she ignoring me? Turns out that the last time my kids had a sleepover at her house, all their stuff smelled like cat pee and she decided that it meant that I let them live in filth. She decided that I was an abusive father and she could no longer be friends with me. The reality was that my kids were so excited for the sleepover they packed their bag the night before and put it in the living room so we could grab everything on the way out the next morning. The bag was not fully closed and at some point in the night our cat climbed in the bag and peed on their stuff. We did not realize it because we just grabbed the bag on the way out and threw it in the trunk. But instead of calling us when she opened their bag that night so we could bring them clean clothes, or even telling us when we picked them up the next morning, she just decided I was a horrible person and never spoke to me again. Except to tell me why when I confronted her about ignoring me for weeks. The biggest reason this whole thing was so stupid is that she had just been complaining to me 2 weeks prior about how their cat had recently been peeing on their fresh laundry and they didn't know why. And that she would go to grab something and discover it smelled like pee. It never occurred to her that someone else's cat could randomly pee on something and they might not notice it right away. She just decided that I knew my kids' stuff smelled like cat pee and just didn't care. Despite the fact that she had been in my house many times and nothing had ever smelled like cat pee. It was all just bizarre. He kept using my card to buy Amazon video rentals. Like 330 worth. Lost my speep and stopped talking to him. I couldn't afford new clothes so she didn't want to be seen with me. Over not believing something she found on TikTok. She thought it would be a good idea to get back at me with a death threat which made me sad for weeks. My parents wanted to leave a church because the pastor had some problems and the new church leaders were teaching some weird speep. So when we left, 90% of my friends' parents cut all contact with us even though they had known me from birth. It was a really speepty thing for them to do. I kept my best friend though. And my parents were able to keep 3 of their closer friends. It really showed them who their real friends were. She hit me and another friend. We got rid of her as a friend and she was begging for us back. And her mum was begging for us to come back. At 21. Nope. She had been abusive for years. We'd had enough. I grew up in really rough circumstances. I think my HS friends clicked that something wasn't right at home, but I never talked about it. My best friend kept encouraging me to speak to her so she could be there for me as she felt it was important to get things off my chest. Anyway, one day I finally did. Only gave her about half of the information, but it felt good to trust in someone. Next day at school I walk into what I thought was my first class to find no students. Just a group of my teachers and my friend. She had told a bunch of teachers and they ambushed me in that classroom with the school counselor, the 90s kid version of a counselor, so it was not a fun experience. Afterwards my friend asked me never to speak of my life again. She said my life was too negative so she didn't want to be around me anymore. Cool beans. Stole candies in my birthday party. I would have given him the candies if he had asked, but he decided to do it behind my back. My best friend / roommate in college started dating this obnoxious control freak. She was insufferable. She'd slip into a Puerto Rican accent to bring up that she'd spent a couple months doing there and the accent stuck. One night at a party, a different friend ate a construction paper decoration. She called the police for destruction of property. That owl is dumbest friendship ending fight I've ever had. In high school I lost a friend because I went over to their house and didn't like that their mum made for dinner. I wasn't even rude about it, I ate about half the meal and said I was full. He wanted to smoke pot and not play Black Ops 3 Zombies no more. Friends with a girl since we were both 12. After we turned 18 she got very weird. Eventually just saying, "We're 18 now. So." When she learned I was not planning to marry her once we turned 18 she never spoke to me again. Nor about 1/4 of my childhood friends. To be extremely clear, she and I never, ever talked about romance, dating, marriage, anything close. I had even been dating a different girl for over a year when I turned 18. I lost a 3-year friendship with a former best friend because I was suspicious of and didn't like her boyfriend at the time. It turned out that I was right about him. And she reached out to apologize to me after they broke up. 5. Oh. I have another one. She didn't like how she had to mother me all the time, tell me how to eat / dress / clean up / etc. Thing is, I'm very independent and I never asked her for her help with any of these things. She just came in and tried to change everything about me. She got pregnant and assumed I was done with her because I don't like babies. Never heard from her again. Because their friend beat a geometry - level on attempt 17. Long story. A BuzzFeed quiz. I was the one that made the plans. I stopped making plans. He made a homophobic comment in front of a lesbian friend and refuses to take it back, prompting me to kick him out of my place. I ended a 20-year friendship with my best friend cause he refused to get vaccinated and I'm at higher risk. He had high-risk relatives and I couldn't understand why not. So I bluntly told him how I felt. He got mad and cussed me out and I haven't talked to him in months. Told my friend if he could talk to his sister because her actions were causing my best friend to become suicidal. He said they're adults and should handle it themselves and that it is not his problem. He traded us in for what he thought were cooler friends. We saw them bullying him not long after. Serves him right. I'm peeping cool. She chose the person she lost her virginity to over his sister who was her best childhood friend. No falling out involved. The first beat the crap out of the second in front of all of their kids. I couldn't reach out to her for few months due to personal grievances. She took it as a literal sign of our friendship breaking off instead of communicating and publicized the fact that we are no longer friends. Now I'm glad I saw true colors early, but that time it hurt like hell. My friend forgot he let me borrow a video game and thought he caught me slipping when he saw me playing it online. It was a fairly new feature online to see what your friend was playing. His GF got involved and insults were exchanged. 3 years later we were best buds again. It happened in Roblox when I told him he was dumb as a joke. He rage quit. Blocked. She took photos of drunk me and shared online. My cousin and me wanted to play Monster Hunter World together. He didn't have much money left and I wanted to gift it to him. He said fine. But remember me daily to give you the money back. Yeah. I did that and he got really angry over the time of a few days and then he was really pissed. He then sent me the money on a different account, not my personal money account. Instead he sent it onto our TeamSpeak provider account. And then he quit. He deleted me and all friends. All because of his wish that I remind him daily because he didn't like to have debts.